Hello, hello. Welcome to Maker Stories.
Hi.
Hi Marisol. I am Deepika Prakash, founder of Pattern Review, and today we are chatting with Marisol Sonera-Adkins, who is the founder and creator of Sonera Designs, which is a sustainable fashion brand for petite women. And my vision behind Maker Stories, if you're not familiar and watching this for the first time, is to bring into focus makers of color, specifically people in the sewing industry who do sewing as a business. And I am so thrilled to have Marisol here with us. So welcome, and let's jump in. How are you doing today, Marisol?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited when I read your email and saw the invitation. I've missed you guys so much, and we've talked about this. I can't wait for us to all get together again. So thank you.
I know Marisol is talking about the time when she's also a Pattern Review member, and last we met was at PR Week in Canada, which seems like a long time ago, but there is Pattern Review Weekend happening next year. So yay, fingers crossed.
So excited.
So if you guys see me look here, it's because I have a list of questions, and Marisol and I talked about this. I tend to ramble on, so we both have our, so yes, that's where I'll be looking for questions.
I'm a rambler. I'll have you here till 10 o'clock at night if I don't stay focused.
All right. Hi, Marisol. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you learned to sew.
Okay, so I grew up around women who sewed. My mom, both of my grandmothers, a couple of my aunts, they all know how to sew, and I've been around it for as far as I can remember. So I probably when I was either 7 or 8, between my grandmother, let's say my paternal grandmother and my mother, they taught me little hand stitches. So at some point I got this little tin can, and I know a lot of people they're gonna know what I'm talking about. Like the little cookies that used to come in the little tin can, and they put, a few spools of thread, a little pin cushion with some pins and some needles and some scissors. Yeah. And, they taught me how to do certain little stitches. My Barbies were fabulous all the time because I just started making all kinds of stuff. I got in trouble one time because I ended up cutting something from my closet.
Oh God.
Clothes for my Barbie. So I got in trouble for that. But my maternal grandmother was known in the community for hand embroidery. So whenever someone had a baby or there was a christening or anything like that, she would do maybe blankets, bonnets, little outfits. She made beautiful embroidery handwork. My mom, obviously, she sewed for herself and for us. My paternal grandmother sewed all of her clothes. She always looked well put together, and she did some piecework for the local factory, just to make a little bit of money. After all those years as a child sewing, I ended up going to vocational high school, actually in Andover, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nice. So I'm a Reggie. Yeah. And I graduated from there with a diploma in clothing and arts design.
Nice. Wonderful. So you grew up around sewing and making clothes has been part of your upbringing. It's just you're just exposed to it at a very early age. That's amazing. And I do have I think all of us have that memory of that sewing tin, right? Oh, yeah. Amazing. I love that. Awesome. How do you identify yourself?
I am creative.
You know what? Hang on. Let me rephrase that question. I'm like, that didn't sound right. How do you identify I guess that was right. What do you identify as? How do you identify? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'm just overthinking that.
I'm a creator at heart. You know, I guess maybe because I was exposed to it from a very young age. Um, both of my grandfathers actually were entrepreneurs. And, it's funny because, later in life, I decided to go back to school and get a degree in business management and entrepreneurship. And it was one day sitting in class where they asked, did anybody grow up with, a family member who was an entrepreneur or, around entrepreneurship? And it was the day that it dawned on me that both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. And as a child growing up, I thought it was just, that's how you live. That's what you do. My paternal grandfather had this van. He took all the back seats out, and he would sell, all of the vegetables and fruits that he would grow on his land.
Wow.
All the eggs from all the chickens he had. And then my maternal grandfather had a store, like a little grocery store for the community. So they were both entrepreneurs, but I didn't realize that until somebody labeled it that way. So, I'm a solopreneur because I'm starting this business, which we'll talk about. And it's just me, like I am in charge of everything. So, balancing that, being a creative and being an entrepreneur, solopreneur, that's how I identify, a maker.
A maker, yes.
I see anything and I'm like, I can make that, regardless of what it is.
I know.
So I'll be the one who's trying
to
make shoes and all this other stuff, but
I love it.
Not right now. My hands are full right now.
So we touched upon this a little bit, but do you sew as a hobby or as a business?
So I still get to sew as a hobby. I've made my own clothes, for about 37 years, since high school. And, working in corporate America, I didn't have as much time, especially when the kids were little. But 2 years ago, I took the leap of starting this small fashion brand. And I'm lucky enough to still be able to sew for myself because I am the test model for everything. So, I like this question because I still in my mind think of sewing as a hobby. And I do that intentionally because when you start a business, there's so much pressure. And, you're obviously trying to make this successful and make a living out of it, that you don't want to lose that passion and that love for sewing. So I keep that feeling in my heart and in my mind that sewing is a hobby for me, so that I don't lose sight of that. Yeah.
I've always maintained, so now Pattern Review is in its 20th year, which I find very exciting and hard to believe at the same time. But I always feel that for me, it's important. I still sew and I still enjoy it. I may not be churning out clothes like the way I used to, because a lot of my sewing is very mindful now. What do I really need? What do I enjoy? But I feel like if I didn't love sewing this much, I don't think I could run Pattern Review, because I'm first and foremost a member, of the site. And so I like how you think as well. So that's great.
It's important.
It is important, I think, because like you said, an entrepreneur puts so much of themselves into their work that you don't want to lose sight of that.
Right.
That why is it that you started Sonera Design in your case? So let's get back to that. Why is it that you started this fashion brand? What is it which is you, and what led to it?
the first thing that I want to say is education. Like, I am a student for life. If somebody said to me, I'm going to pay you a salary for you to be a student, sign me up.
I know.
I'm there. I am a student for life. So I think that passion that I have for learning is something that I really love to share. Now, I'm 4'11". I'm not even 5 feet. So I have struggled my entire life having to go out shopping for clothes. And it was, you know, a shock to me when I got my first office job in my very early 20s. I remember one instance, I literally walked out of the mall in tears because I wanted to make a good impression. You know, this was my first office job, and, you know, I had to learn so much because obviously I didn't have a lot of experience working for corporate America, and I just couldn't find anything to fit me. You know, everything just looked god awful. And luckily I knew how to sew. I was in a pinch. I couldn't just whip something up for the very next day. At the time I didn't have a little fabric stash, but
Yes.
you know, but I think that's where my passion comes from, is education, and make someone that struggles with that feel heard and just feel amazing. You know, I know that I probably take on way too much, but my business has a little bit of e-commerce. So I have designs that I have available on my website. They are mostly made to order. So I don't make it until I get an order. That's one way of being sustainable.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. That goes towards sustainability, because there's no inventory to store. And I really do like, I've been following a few people who do have businesses as sewing based businesses to sew for others. And how are they able to manage? Because it takes so long to make something.
Yes.
And if it just keeps lying on the racks, just hanging on the racks, that's not sustainable. It's heartbreaking too.
It is. So the only thing that I have that people can actually buy is if they're my size, because I make the one item. I have to test the pattern. I have to have something to show pictures of, because, you know, everyone's visual and they want to see what it looks like in the finished product and on a human body. But all the other fabrics and colors that are available, which is pretty much one-offs, because I don't buy fabric in bulk either. That's what I want to offer women that want to buy clothes that are already made for them. The other thing, which is something I've been focusing on, to be honest, within the past couple of months, is I think I'm going to start seriously thinking about starting a pattern line for petite women.
Oh,
yes, because
exciting.
I have been sharing a lot more on social media, and the love and the requests for sewing patterns that I've been getting has been amazing. Of course, that's a beast, because, yes, you know, there's a lot involved in that, but I'm going to make it happen. I will find a way. That
is amazing. And we will be here. Like, guess what did I tell you? My husband always calls. Yes, I love him. Okay. That's a good omen that this interview is happening at the right time, when it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
I love hearing that, Marisol. I think people struggle with, I mean, clothes are not just clothes. I've always felt that the best clothes are which, when you wear them, you should forget about them. There should be no pulling. Gosh, yes. You should just forget that you're wearing clothes. And if you're able to provide that, if you're able to clothe somebody, you know, who isn't able to find that elsewhere, that is an amazing feeling. That is almost like public
Absolutely.
service. So,
I
and
mean, you know, again, going back to working for so many years in corporate America, again, being 4'11", you know, maybe 5 feet in heels, whenever I walked into a boardroom, I always felt like people just, they didn't see me,
yeah,
you know? That's a little bit intimidating, right? When you feel like you're a ghost in this room, that you're trying to be equal with everyone else, you know, in corporate America. As a woman, there's another set of feelings that go into that, where you want to be respected and valued and noticed. And when something doesn't fit right, and you're, you know, fidgeting and
yeah, you're fidgeting, you're pulling, you're
yeah,
adjusting, and it
and
just
you're
it,
worried that your pants, the hem of your pants is going to get stuck underneath your heel and you're going to go down any moment. I mean, that messes with your head. And so then you can't stay focused on the task at hand, which is walk in there and just kill it and just be yourself and own it, you know? And those are the things that I was able to experience when I wore something and I felt like I had that little extra pep in my step, and I'm like, I got this.
That's awesome.
That's
I'm
what I
so
want
happy to hear
people
that.
to feel, you know, that if I can do that, if I can accomplish that, my mission is complete.
Good. That's awesome. So you mentioned earlier that you got started just in the pandemic a couple years ago. And so do you work from your home studio? Do you have an office? Or tell us a little bit about the logistics of Sonera Designs and how this fashion brand actually works. Do you have tie-ups with other organizations, or how do you find? Do you find how do you? I guess I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. How do you market this vision? How do you, and is it feasible for you?
So I work out of my home. I've always had a sewing studio in my home. You know, my gosh, maybe 20 years ago, it was a corner of my kitchen or my dining room. You know, it was like one of those kitchen dining room spaces, which was all one space. I had one little corner where I had my sewing machine. Then when we moved and we bought our home, I had this little tiny space in a bonus room that we had. That was our family room. My husband built this little room outside of the house and put this little AC unit on the window or on the wall. And I was working out of that. When I really started thinking seriously about the business, we took that bonus room and we redid the whole thing. And I ended up getting that room. By that point, the kids were a lot older and they weren't really using the family room that much. So I work from home. As far as the marketing of the business, it has been a roller coaster ride of emotions because I have done this on my own by myself since day one. My very first WordPress website, I literally went to the library and I walked out with like 5 or 6 books and I built that baby from scratch by myself. Obviously, something happened to the plugins. I couldn't figure it out. I tried to get people to help me, couldn't do it. So that's when I moved on to Etsy, which then I eventually moved on to Shopify, where I'm at now. But it's just me. I've had to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and really get my social media going. It's something I fought for years. I thought to myself, I'm just going to post pictures. My face is not going on that platform at all. That's changed. I'm still uncomfortable, but you know, the feedback I get, the love that I get, the excitement that I get about the comments of people saying, oh my gosh, I love this. Oh my gosh, I want this. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you feel the way that I feel. That helps. So needless to say, the growth and the success, financial success of this business is literally crawling baby turtle steps. I am seeing a little bit of growth because I'm getting involved in the community. I have such great support locally with the Women's Center here in Tampa Bay. My mentors from college.
That's fantastic to hear.
You know, so whenever there's a pop-up shop, I get notifications, I get emails, I get invitations. So I've done a few of those. That's, you know, it's the only way I know how.
Right.
You know, are there other things that I could be doing? Probably, but I have to be careful because I don't want to spread myself way too thin and then not like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that is definitely when you wear many in a business, especially one you started from scratch. You know, I've written all the code for pattern review from scratch too, and this was before even Facebook was a thing. So I get what you're saying, I get where you're coming from, and I think it is important to, that's why I asked your vision ahead of time, because it's important to, like, I always remind what my vision is, and are we still true to our vision, which is having that unbiased platform for sewists from all around the world, you know, where people can feel comfortable to share and feel excited about their projects. And so I think it's the vision which is important, and you have that, you know, very the clarity of the vision is important for any entrepreneur. And I'm glad things are moving in the right direction, and only you can decide, you know, how fast or how gently you want the road you want to take. So it's as long as you have the right people with you, supporting you, we need that, you know, even if we're doing it by ourselves. I think it's important to have that core group of people who do uplift you and who do support you, and all of that stuff. So I'm really happy to hear that you are living your dream, and it's exciting.
I pinch myself sometimes.
I know. So let's talk about the people going in that direction, having those people. Who are the people you're inspired by, both in the sewing world and outside?
So number one is my mom. She is my number one inspiration. She's the one who really sat down with me and took the time to really, you know, patiently teach me how to sew. We really share style aesthetic. I mean, you know, if we're walking, say we're at a store and we're walking and there's something that sparkles, you know, 2 aisles down and there's either sequin or whatever it is, we are there.
I love it.
We are there. So, you know, it's this thing where, you know, when the last time I went to visit her, she had this little blazer in her closet and she's like, here, take this, because I couldn't find my sweater for the plane. And I'm like, I would have bought this. Like, this is so me, you know? So my mom is number one. As far as the sewing community, Emily Holman, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Emily Holman Designs. I haven't seen her in a few months on Instagram. She has an Instagram account and a blog, but she has the most cohesive, amazing little tiny mini collections that she makes. I mean, her studio always looks so nice. It's Emily Holman, Hallman. Like I said, I think her last post on Instagram was like January. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, I'm really, now there's a lot more people that, you know,
right, but those are the two who jump out.
Yeah, like awesome. Style art patterns.
Oh yeah,
I love them. You know, they have a lot of very tailored pieces in their pattern line that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. And in the fashion industry, you know, I don't, I don't know how to say this, but I don't really follow runway shows that much, to be completely honest with you.
Mm-mm.
But I do watch Project Runway. I always love, like, I always look for the ones that say that they're self-taught. And I'm like focusing on them. I'm like, come on, bring it. I want to see what you make. But even though he's not self-taught, Christian Siriano really inspires me. One, at the age where he started in Project Runway and be such an old soul.
I feel like he's the OG, isn't he? Right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't watch Project Runway anymore, but I remember watching it when it first started, and I was like, he's the OG.
Yeah, and I have to say, the seasons come out and I do watch them, but I don't get the same excitement as I did on the very first few seasons.
I hear you.
But Kristen Siriano has sewn for celebrities that other designers have turned them down, whether it's, I don't know if it's the color of their skin. I know for sure it's their body shape. They're not that ideal body shape per the industry standards.
Industry standards, right?
But he will make that Grammy dress or whatever. I think, like, I applaud him for that. I think that's completely and totally amazing. And he had a shoe collection. I don't know if you're aware of this. And it was available at Payless.
What? Really?
Yes.
Wow. So he's making it accessible to people of all different backgrounds that, hey, I want to wear fashion, but I can't afford like $2,000 shoe.
Yep. So I think I know he had shoes for sure. I don't know if he had handbags as well. He might have, but I bought a few of his shoes. There were a pair of like ballerina slippers, flats, that I used to love wearing, whenever I went to work and I wanted to walk from the parking lot to the office. And I bought the same pair for 3 times whenever one would not be wearable anymore. And they were probably like $25.
Yeah.
And then of course Payless went out of business. So, but those are the ones that inspire me the most.
Awesome. Okay, this is a fun one. What is the one question you get asked a lot?
It's either once they find out that I sew or that I'm a fashion designer, is, did you make what you're wearing right now? Or if they, that conversation doesn't happen, I have had people stop me and say, oh my gosh, I love that jacket or those pants or that top. Where did you buy it? Where did you get it? It's amazing. And then that's where the conversation goes, well, I made it.
That's nice. So
but yeah, it's usually about something to wear.
If they don't know that you have your own fashion line, does this launch into, I made that, and then, or do you just sometimes answer, yeah, thank you, and then move on?
It depends on the situation. It's one of those things where if they're saying it and they're still walking, I'm not, I think one of the things that has also, I guess, has made it a little challenging when it comes to the business side of this whole journey is I'm not a salesperson. Like, I'm not salesy. And I rather just, have a conversation and answer all these questions. Oh yeah. Do you have a business? Yeah, here's my business card, should I work on that? Maybe so. I think I'm getting a little bit better in doing it in a way that I still feel it's genuine to who I am and my personality. In that, I kind of approach it in a way, follow me on social media. And then of course that's going to take them to my website. So I feel more comfortable saying, follow me, watch me make these things and share tips and things like that. And then eventually, if they're interested, they'll go onto my website.
Awesome. So let's go into the other side of this question. What is the one question you wish people asked you, and they don't get asked enough.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. What does petite really mean? I wish every single person would start a conversation with me with that question. Because
let me be the one. Let me ask you, what does petite actually mean?
Well, thank you for asking. There is such a huge misconception that petite means that you're not only short, but you're like extremely skinny, or you fit into a size 4, size 6, and that qualifies you as a petite woman. What most people don't understand, that being petite has everything to do with your height and absolutely nothing to do with your shape and your weight.
So I didn't know that for the longest time. So I'm on the shorter side of the spectrum. I'm 5'2.5", and in my youth I could actually say 5'3", but let's be honest, 5'2" and change. So I used to struggle before I started sewing for myself. I used to shop in the junior section, but then those clothes got a little too inappropriate. Inappropriate. Like, I did not want to go to work with juicy written on my behind.
Exactly.
So that's when I decided. But problem with my height was that I'm not quite in the petite range, because if I bought petite pants, I like to wear my pants just a little longer. My ankle was showing, and the regular was too long. So I also struggled with finding clothes which were me, and also I'm short. I carry my length in I'm short waisted. Right. My torso is short. Everything was way too low for me. I couldn't find blouses. I couldn't find pants. Barely finding dresses. No blazers. The proportions were just wrong. So petite is just such a misconception. The only, I think, ready-to-wear company where petite was okay for me was Ann Taylor Loft or Ann Taylor.
Okay.
But no other, and not that I shopped in many high-end stores, but in regular malls and stuff, nope, nothing.
And I have to say, so for my brand, if you're 5'4" and under, you're considered petite. Now, what you said about your proportions is another problem within the petite community, because first of all, no one body is exactly the same as another body, right? We're, I guess, shaped differently. We're bigger on top, we're bigger on bottom, both, rectangular shape, very curvy, whatever the case may be. But it's interesting because my daughter and I are exactly 4'11". We're both exactly 4'11". We stood side by side next to each other, and her waist was probably a good 4 inches below my waist.
What? Wow. So she has long torso.
Long-waisted, and I am short-waisted. So my legs are longer than hers. For her to find pants is much more difficult than it is for me, even though it's still difficult for me because I'm only 4'11". I'm not even 5 feet. But can you imagine being 4'11" and having shorter legs compared to your torso? So, I love the idea of having a pattern line that addresses the petite proportions, which you still will have to make your own little adjustments, but the big major adjustments are already made for you, and it makes it just a little bit easier.
Why
to
not?
Get it right, to get it just right. Yeah. I wish more people would ask, that question, because, one of the things that I really worry about when I think about this whole pattern line that I am going to do is I need to make sure that I get into a position that I have people helping me, because I want to be able to offer those larger sizes. I want to be very inclusive within the petite community. I don't want to leave anybody out. So, the grading and all this other stuff gets very difficult, when it's not something you have experience in, getting, to deal with all of those different proportions. So it's coming. It's coming.
And I'll be rooting for you. I'm absolutely rooting for you. I don't know if you know about Style Falcon. Diane, Style Falcon, her name is Diane, and she goes by Shoes 15 on Pattern Review. We recently did a feature on her. She launched her pattern line in the pandemic as well, and her vision is sewing for 40 and above, how our bodies have changed. The proportions are more geared towards older bodies, and how things have changed, things we prefer after a certain phase, and it's okay to want things fitting a little bit differently.
Sure.
Lower bust points, and so all of these little nuances. And so she also started a pattern line. So perhaps, yes. So
I'll have to definitely check her out. Yeah.
It's exciting for me to see our members living their dream. And I think the technology is so amazing. It has allowed us to do the things we want to do, right?
Yes.
And it's okay to be specific about what it is that you're offering. So I'm really excited. Let's
thank you.
Let's talk about race and how it has affected your life and your business, and more specifically in the sewing industry or fashion industry. Have you noticed, if any, biases towards you, against you in this industry?
In the sewing industry, not that I have noticed. One of the things that I love the most about the sewing community is that there is such acceptance and love, because everyone is so passionate about what they're doing that you can feel it. I always love reading the blog posts or watching, social media posts when people comment on, a post where somebody says, "Oh, this was a complete fail. I can't believe how this turned out." And, everybody's so encouraging, and, they're like, this has happened to me and I tried this, give it a shot, reach out if you have any other, like, to me, you don't see that in other areas of the world.
Non-sewing areas.
Yeah. So, in life, it's unfortunate, but race honestly affects all aspects of life. And, growing up, I've had my fair share, but the sewing community, I have to say, I haven't felt it and I haven't seen it. So I'm very grateful for that.
What about the business community? Are you part of the business community? Do you feel that you have to, does that come into consideration at all?
I feel that I have to try, push harder to be heard. I feel like there's this moment of judgment at first sight, right? And then, 5 sentences later, when they take the time to really interact with me as a person, just the energy changes completely. So it's tough because obviously it's unfair, that shouldn't happen. But, I have to say that, being in the Tampa Bay area, there is a huge melting pot in this area. Especially working with the Women's Center and, the Hillsborough Community College. I have gotten a lot of support. So outside of that, yeah, it's not a good feeling, but I know who I am. I approach every single day, really trying to share a smile or say hello to someone, whether it's a nod or hi, how you doing, good morning, whatever the case may be. How they take it, whatever they do with that, it's out of my hands. So it's important. The vibe that I put out is important to me because I can't control what goes on after that.
My dad gave me a mantra, which is basically my life, everyday life, and I'm passing it on to my daughter. And, we talked about this earlier, like I'm a action-oriented person. So it's frustrating sometimes when things don't work out the way you envision them. You do so many things. And my dad always says, you're only responsible for your own actions and reactions.
Absolutely.
So it's just such a guiding phrase in my life that, hey, did I do my action? Did I act the way which is true to my, who I am? And did I react the way? Action is still a little bit easier for me, but reaction is very hard.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But yeah, it's all a learning, right? As we're growing.
It is. And I'm the type of person that I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve most of the time. And that has been a huge struggle on the business side because I know that there are things that I cannot take personal. The things are going to come, whether it's trolling on social media or a bad review or somebody complain about something. I know it's coming, and I'm preparing myself emotionally. Am I going to be able to be like, oh, whatever? No, because that's not who I am. So the reaction is definitely much, much harder.
It is definitely harder. But I also don't like when people say don't take things personally. How is that even possible? Like, again, going back to being an entrepreneur, you put so much of yourself into your work, and then to think that I can't take this personally means that you don't want this to be a personal business. That's not how it works. We will take it personally and we will have coping strategies, right? We will figure things out. So yeah, I don't like this being said to me, don't take things personally, because I will.
And when your business is being a maker, as a maker, which I am turning into a business, it's even harder. Yeah. I mean, it's like, this piece is one of my babies. And I am giving, okay, you're paying for it, but I'm handing this off to you. And then something like that happens and you're like, hurt.
I'm going to ask you, I'm going to skip a question and then come back to it because this goes into that. What do you do for self-care? What do you do outside of work and life to care for yourself?
Anything that exposes me to nature. So
I find that a commonality in a lot of our guests. This is great.
So if you went to translate my name, Marisol, from Spanish to English, it's M-A-R, which translated means ocean. The I could be translated into and. S-O-L is translated into sun.
Sun.
So ocean and sun. And they're my most favorite things in the whole world, with the exception of plants,
You are in that right area too. You have both.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hiking in swamps or anything like that because I'm terrified of snakes. But But I love nature trails. What I try to do, I would love to do it every single day. It doesn't happen, but I get up and I try to get out early in the morning and walk about close to 2 miles in my neighborhood. And most of my neighborhood has tree-lined streets, so I can stay in the shade, you know, living in Florida. By 7 o'clock, it's 89 degrees in the summer, you know, maybe God. 95 degrees in the summer. And then there's another kind of connected little community that has a man-made lake, but it's pretty big. It's a nice lake. And it's a lot of retired folks that live in there. So when you walk in the path to get to the lake, it's their garden. So that's every person that lives in that community. They take care of parts of the garden. They volunteer, and it's a community. Gorgeous.
It's a community gardening spot.
Yes, and that's kind of connected to my subdivision. So I'm lucky enough that I can walk a 2-mile walk and be exposed to nature the whole way. And then my husband loves to fish, so every now and then he'll invite me. So we get on the lake, and it's so peaceful.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So anything that has to do with nature, if I'm really, really stressed out, I could literally sit under a tree and focus on a little piece of grass or something growing out of the earth. It's almost like, you know how when people meditate and they have this focus and they're silent and just they're in that moment? That's my meditation. I focus on either that leaf or how that root is coming out of the ground. And if I do that, you know, even just a few minutes, I'm good.
Oh my God, that sounds lovely. I want to get to that stage. I know being a type A person, meditation and yoga will be good for me, but I'm not there yet. However, I know that my slow sewing journey and my walks and hikes are a step in that right direction, but
yes,
things are still moving. I'm still very active, even when I'm not active. So I want to get to that point.
I cannot meditate. I've tried it.
Yeah.
I cannot,
so hard.
I cannot silence my mind. And I know that's hard from being a mom and wife. And
it's very hard.
Running a hustle, but yeah, nature for sure.
That's wonderful. Yes. Okay. So we'll go back to the question before this. What are your thoughts about Hispanic Heritage Month?
You know, it's one of those questions where, like, that's something I celebrate every single day because I'm Hispanic. Yes. But, you know, so it's like, okay. But I have to say, I am very grateful for it because I strongly believe that I don't care who you are, if every single person took the moment to learn even one thing of someone else's culture, the world would be just so much better. Because, you know, the reality is that we have so many differences, even within the Hispanic and Latino community, right? Even just within that community, there are so many differences, right? But that's what makes humanity so beautiful. It's that we are different. Can you imagine how boring it would be if we were all little robots walking around this earth?
I know, we all look the same. We all eat the same foods, wear the same clothes. It would be so boring.
So I love it because it gives us an opportunity to celebrate the work and the traditions of our ancestors that are, let's be real. Sometimes those traditions get lost as generations, go on and on and on. So I love it because it gives us an opportunity to really stop and celebrate that. And me personally, I love to see like all of the events and the programming that goes on and all of the social media and people posting different things and interviews and talking, because it feels like I'm visiting the culture or the country of other Hispanics without having to travel.
Yeah, I love
sense,
that. I do
right?
like that. I don't like when people just stereotype each other. And every person is unique. So there may be similarities between a few different cultures or within the culture, but let's celebrate each other's differences and cultures. And I think when it comes to sewing too, there's so many things we can learn from each other's cultures, and
Absolutely.
there's only things to be gained from that. Like we can take that and focus it on fashion, textiles, types of sewing, like in your case your mom and your grandmother sewed,
Right.
and the styles they were sewing, the things which they were, it's just such a connection.
Absolutely.
And so I'm really inspired by your positive attitude, and so thank you for that. Any other interests? We talked about walking and nature besides sewing.
Well, like I said, at the beginning of your questions, I'm a creative. And that means that I've taken painting classes with, watercolor, regular, not oil. Yeah, I think some were oil paintings, acrylic painting, and things like that. And I was impressed. The first few classes, didn't come out that bad. Now I have to work on fashion sketching because that's another monster.
I know. I've heard that from people that it's really hard. It's hard.
Yeah. And I've taken classes on jewelry making and crocheting and knitting. So I've dabbled in
a lot of things, all things making. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Jewelry making is probably the one that I gravitate more towards, but I see some, sweaters, tops, dresses, handbags that are made from people that either crochet or knit. And I'm like, I need to get back into it. Look how beautiful that is. But, it's like time is limited.
Yes.
Stay focused on what you're doing.
I know. I hear you. I totally hear you. Yeah. So yeah, I've dabbled in a lot of those things too, and jewelry making as well. It's just so nice to be able to work with your hands.
Yes,
but I've stuck to sewing and knitting for the time being because I'm tactile. I love the fiber. I love all things texture and fibers. To be able to feel that fabric or yarn is just really fills my cup. So
yes, absolutely.
All right, this is a fun one, and then we can go on to the rapid fire round, and you don't know the question.
I'm nervous about that.
I love it. I think a part of my personality is that I like to surprise people. So yeah. I'm sorry about that, but
no worries.
You get the real me. If you were given a microphone, 5 minutes, and an audience, what would you say to them?
I think I would start off by saying, be careful how you talk to yourself. In other words, be kind to yourself, especially if, us that are mothers, there are moments where I'm like, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? Would I say that to one of my children? No. So why am I saying that to myself? Or people pull these things off, whether it's social media or starting the business. Starting this business has been in my head for close to 17 years.
Wow.
That gives you a little bit
perspective.
Perspective of how much I've struggled. I'm an introvert. I'm not antisocial, but I am an introvert. So being out and, you know, doing things takes a lot of energy out of me. I literally need like 2 days to recover whenever I do something with, you know, other people. But it's, be careful how you speak to yourself. You know, just be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself with others, especially when that person's journey started 17 years ago and you're just now taking that leap of faith. Like, how are you going to compare yourself with that person? Don't do it. So, I mean, I would just say, treat yourself with kindness. You know, how
That's
would
great
you,
advice.
if you're in a situation where you're disappointed or you're, you know, you're discouraged in with yourself, how would you advise someone if it was someone else that was going through that? And try to
Talk
do
to
that.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great advice. I love that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
All right. For all those listening, we are finally in our rapid fire round.
Let's go.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, Marisol, are you ready? I'm going to ask you.
As like, ready as I can be.
I am going to ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
And the goal is that you tell me what comes to your mind first.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm an overthinker, so let's see how this works out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite movie?
Dance with Me.
I love that one. Okay. Favorite, okay, this is a long question, but it's important to ask.
Okay.
On a day when you're feeling ugh and you have to go out and live life, what do you reach for in your closet to wear?
A jacket.
And maybe we can get a picture of it later for the blog.
A jacket.
A jacket. Okay.
I'm a blazer girl. I lived in Massachusetts for so many years. I struggle with it now because I'm in Florida, but you know what? I'm in air conditioning. I wear the jackets.
So is it any jacket or any specific jacket?
Blazers for the most part.
Blazers. Okay.
Yeah,
and
but moto jacket, bomber jacket. Oh my gosh.
A jacket.
Yeah, I'm a jacket. I'm a jacket girl.
All right. Favorite snack?
Oh, okay, currently seaweed snacks.
Seaweed snacks. My daughter loves those too.
I get the ones that are olive oil because they're not as salty as the ones that have sea salt.
Oh, we get ours from Trader Joe's.
Yeah, I get them from Whole Foods, which I think it's
a little
expensive, but Trader Joe's is too far for me.
I know. That's the whole thing about Trader. We have Trader Joe's in our town. All right, one last question. Your favorite fabric to sew with?
Oh Lord, anything with sequin on it. You didn't say easiest. You said my favorite.
Favorite. I did not say easiest. I said favorite. So that's where we're going to end with sequins. I'm hoping we can get some pictures with you sewing sequins or wearing sequins. I love sequins too so much.
No problem.
Think shiny and sparkly. Wish you all of love, success, and good energy for Sonera Designs and upcoming pattern business, and hopefully we can see some of those on Pattern Review soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun.
It was so much fun for me too. And thank you to all of you who are logging in to watching this interview with the really amazing Marisol Sonera-Adkins. Check out her social media and her website and follow her journey like I have, and see what it is to live your dream despite all of the challenges. And like she says, please be kind to yourself and be careful about how you speak to yourself, and don't ever stop loving yourself. Bye.